I'm a fish. How is this possible? It's a scientific breakthrough. I live it. I love it. I'm finally a fish.
What happened? You know, there was a time where people would look at this show and give it the praise it deserved, not only for its fun characters, but the amount of great writing that came from the first 3 seasons that are still fondly remembered 25 years later. You're probably thinking now, oh boy, another internet reviewer talking about how SpongeBob isn't as good as it was after season 3, the show should just die, so on and so forth. Well, we're not here for that. We're not here for security system takes control of Squidward's house or any other stuff like that. What we're here to talk about is possibly the best movie and ending to one of the most iconic cartoon characters of all time, and how it still holds 20 years later.
Shrek 2.
No, not that one. I'm talking about a film that's still considered to be the last time we saw him and his friends as their true selves. I'm talking about 2004's The SpongeBob SquarePants Movie, or for the common shitposter, Spongebob travels half the globe for a hat. But first, a little history. A lot of people know how SpongeBob came to be, but to those who don't, let's talk about a marine biologist.
My interest in the ocean was sparked early on by the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau, which aired on television in the 60s, and no one had ever seen anything like that, I think, before he had started doing those specials, and it was just like landing on the moon for me.
Steven Hillenburg was born in 1961 in Lawton, Oklahoma. As a child, he always had a love for marine biology, to which he majored in college. Hillenburg would always mention how he always had an immense interest in drawing art with his marine biologist passions, but he just didn't want to be the guy who simply drew fish all the time. Before he went on to college, he actually had a job as a fry cook, which would be the major inspiration towards his magnum opus. You're probably thinking, why did the creator of one of the most iconic shows of all time not study art? Well, probably just like you, we sometimes just gotta think about the money. And for Steven, marine biology was it. Alright, so how did we get to the sponge? Well, in his marine biologist days, Hillenburg was working at the present-day Ocean Institute, where he mostly taught children about the various aspects of undersea life. Although he loved seeing children take interest in marine life, his childhood love for art remained, and he wanted to do more. His journey to SpongeBob eventually began when one of the Institute's directors asked if he would like to make a comic for the children, which led to the creation of Bob the Sponge in 1989 with his comic, The Intertidal Zone. You know, looking at this and seeing what it'll evolve into, Hillenburg really had a vision for what he wanted for SpongeBob, learning about barnacles, starfish, clams, etc. By the 90s, Hillenburg at that point tried to get Bob the Sponge published with no success, eventually pursuing animation under the CalArts Experimental Animation Program, creating 2 shorts, The Green Beret and Wormholes. Hillenburg finally got his break into the animation field when Joe Murray, creator of Rocko's Modern Life, saw his short film and wanted to hire him for his experimental style. During his time on Rocko, he would work as a creative director, but also storyboarded and wrote for the show. One notable episode would be Fish and Chumps, an episode where the main trio, Rocko, Hefford, and Filbert, go fishing, but in reality, the fish are trying to catch them. Many of the Rocko crew would eventually go on to join Hillenburg for SpongeBob, such as Tom Kenny and Doug Lawrence. Martin Olson, a fellow writer, read his Intertidal Zone comic and told them that he should consider pitching this to the executives. Despite some hesitation, he would eventually go to pitch SpongeBoy, the link between the Intertidal Zone and current SpongeBob. Throughout the pitch, Hillenburg actually wore a Hawaiian shirt with Hawaiian music playing in the background, showing the executives pages of the characters we'd eventually get to know and love. The executives loved the idea so much that on May 1st, 1999, SpongeBob premiered after the Kids' Choice Awards, and the rest was history.
Don't miss next newest Nicktoon. It's a never-before-seen sneak peek of SpongeBob SquarePants, right after the Kids' Choice Awards. Next, on the best place to turn for new tunes, Nickelodeon.
Prepare to be vanquished.
Between 1999 and 2004, SpongeBob was an absolute phenomenon, rivaling the likes of Pokemon and Rugrats, which the latter would be dethroned as Nickelodeon's top show. Including video games, merchandising, anything you can name, SpongeBob was going to be on it. There was just something about those first 3 seasons, 120 episodes that you can't recapture, and it's all stemmed from the writing. Personally, I've always liked when creators didn't just write what they thought kids or a corporate entity wanted, but rather they wrote what they and their crew liked personally, like Craig McCracken's Powerpuff Girls and of course Steven Hillenburg with Spongebob. Why do you think it took off for all ages? Why do you think the show is way more relatable now than when you were a kid? It's all in good writing. Think about any iconic scene from the show, and think about how the characters involved worked off each other or the environment. And you see how it's not really spoon-fed or completely toned down for the children. For me, it was a good balance of childlike wonder and adult situation. Okay, but on to the reason you clicked on this video, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Let's ask, what exactly is the SpongeBob SquarePants movie? A silly cartoon movie from our childhoods, or is it really a coming-of-age story about a young man and his best friend going on a journey to discover who they are as people?
Take it easy, it's just a drawing.
Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. Or am I? You see, when I asked if this film is a coming-of-age story, it's mainly based on one of its biggest strengths. We can't deny the overall quality of writing that was present within the first 120 episodes of SpongeBob, especially how it's still being quoted to this day with the internet through memes and other mediums such as YouTube Poops. A video for another day. But the writing for the first 3 seasons were simply confined to 11 minutes. How did Hillenburg and the crew manage to make it last for 90 minutes? Well, as this film was intended to be the series finale for the show, they needed something grand, but also made sense, not Wanda Sykes being a cyborg with a fish fetish. Like any other film, well, maybe except some recent blunders, films aren't exactly written in one night, and from both corporate and creative interests, there were some ideas, but just didn't land at first. Like SpongeBob going to rescue Patrick from a fisherman in Florida, and Hillenburg definitely not wanting to make a film as simple as making jellyfish jelly for over an hour. So, how did we get the film we know today? Well, don't fix what isn't broken. Hillenburg and the show's writers wrote something I would say was a flow in the right direction. Let's think about it. The original pilot was about SpongeBob wanting to prove himself that he's able to work with the Krusty Krab, despite Squidward and Mr. Krabs wanting to get rid of him in the beginning. The film, I think, took that and made it bigger, while adding everything the show incorporated over the last 5 years, this time with SpongeBob wanting to prove that he's a man, after being passed up for a promotion at the Krusty Krab 2. One problem I do have about this film is that I wish it incorporated more characters who are actually part of the main cast in the story. Sandy only had 2 lines, which sucks considering that she had a cut short scene in the live action portions. Mrs. Puff only had 1, Squidward had a few, but I wish he had more considering he appears in more episodes than Patrick. But I can understand considering that they had more celebrities such as Jeffrey Tambor, Alec Baldwin, a younger Scarlett Johansson, and this movie being the only reason this generation knows who David Hasselhoff is. Fun fact, during the swimming scene they actually made a life-size model of Hasselhoff, which he still has in his house to this day. But anyway, the aforementioned writing formula sticks to the film, but you get the idea you're about to go into a great adventure. We get the usuals, SpongeBob being the most badass version of himself, which is actually a dream, and getting ready for work, harassing Squidward in the shower, and being goofy goobers with Patrick, the aforementioned childlike wonder. In this context, it's because of SpongeBob's dream to be promoted as the Krusty Krab 2 manager, which is getting immense publicity and pisses Plankton off due to his immense failures and inability to get any customers or the Krabby Patty secret formula until he discovers the evil Plan Z. At the ceremony, SpongeBob gets passed up for the promotion because he's deemed immature, leaving depressed with Patrick soon committing terrorism. Plankton's plan soon goes into effect, and it's to steal King Neptune's crown and blame Mr. Krabs in order to steal and use the formula. When it's found out that the crown is in Shell City, Neptune freezes Mr. Krabs and it's up to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward.
Pass.
I mean, SpongeBob and Patrick, 10 days.
He can do it in 9, 8, 7, 6. 6 it is then.
6 days to get the crown back. Throughout the film, they encounter many interesting characters. The guys at the gas station, every able patron in the bar. This film's representation of a predator, Alec Baldwin after shooting a gun, too soon. Some sick fuck who turns sea creatures into merchandise, and of course...
You done good, Hasselhoff. You done
Okay, time for English class. You probably weren't paying attention back then, so pay attention here and get off your phone. Unless you're watching this, then keep going. Let's talk about themes and motifs and how it connects to the SpongeBob movie. Well, when you're me, watching this as a sad adult, you find things you didn't see as a kid. Well, when it comes to this masterpiece of a film, the theme, the overall subject, is maturity. Basically, SpongeBob trying to figure out how to be a man and by society standards. While the motif, the repeated element, is both him being called a kid and the idea of a goofy goober. Let's think about it. Every person I listed down before has called SpongeBob a kid to either claim superiority or to put him down, and they end up getting screwed in some regard. What the film tells you is that there's no real form of maturity. It's really up to you and speculation. You could be a fry cook, a king, gas station employees, whatever, and that could be what you deem mature. Someone might see that as childish or vice versa, but the film tells you just be who you are. When you compare this to the newest film, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, take everything I just said and completely forget about it. While the original was trying to tell a story, this really had nothing going on, as the characters are just annoying shells of who they are, the villain's motivation is just strange and confusing, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But I'll get into detail for another video about how and why many people are calling this the death of SpongeBob until the next terrible thing comes along.
Hey, Patrick, how about a glass of delicious, creamy chocolate milk?
Oh, yummy! I love chocolate milk!
And it's good for you.
Chocolate milk. You can absorb it for yourself. Got chocolate milk?
As we reach close to the end, Plankton has taken over Bikini Bottom and SpongeBob and Patrick are ready to give up until Mindy comes in to turn them into men. Once they turn into men, followed by one of the greatest songs of all time, they encounter Boss Baby where he reveals Plankton's plans, only for him to get defeated by a stranger who turns out to be a Cyclops and the owner of Shell City, which is actually a gift shop. However, the film does something I thought they wouldn't do. They kill SpongeBob and Patrick, just as they get to their destination. I didn't think they had the balls to do it, but from there it was the end of SpongeBob, and to be honest, I wouldn't want it any other way. It was a beautiful way to send off these childhood icons when they realized they learned so much on their journey, and singing the Goofy Goober theme song also showed that they never changed, followed by their final tears as they soon evaporate, signifying their unfortunate demise. And I'm glad Nick left the show alone after this. I hope you like this video, and then make sure to like and subscribe, and join me for the next one.
Shut up and look at the screen!
Alright, that's not how the show ends. We all know what happens. SpongeBob and Patrick get revived by the fire sprinklers, along with all the other fish, who I assuming killed the Cyclops. SpongeBob and Patrick escape, lose the bag of Lays and their only way to get home, until he shows up.
I can take you there.
Who are you?
I'm David Hasselhoff.
Dennis comes back, gets defeated, and the duo get the crown back to King Neptune. Plankton still has another trick up his sleeve. SpongeBob gains the Goofy Goober magic. The day is saved. SpongeBob gets rightfully promoted, thus ending one of the best cartoons of all time. Well, after 120 episodes spanning 3 seasons and a movie to end it all, Hillenburg stepped down from his creative role, and despite his wish to end the show on a high note, Nickelodeon still continued making episodes that are going to this day. Were there any good? There were some diamonds in the rough, but nobody can deny the decay in quality as the seasons went on. What was once something that appealed to all audiences with childlike wonder became simply childish nonsense, a corporate cash cow if you may. We would get Hillenburg back on the show eventually, but it was short-lived due to his untimely death in 2019 due to ALS, which resulted in the fans, the children that grew up with those first 3 seasons, to show appreciation by trying to get Sweet Victory at the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, that was shafted. The never-ending memes, and my most notable favorite, reanimated collabs of SpongeBob episodes, and even the movie, which I'll link in the description, to always commemorate the sponge who lives under the sea and the marine biologist who had a vision to entertain.